Hello and welcome to Stormforce Fitness. This is just a quick video introduction to our integrated movement therapy service, which is essentially designed to bring you to a state where you can enjoy your fitness pain-free, looking to remove any joint pain, muscle pain, all the niggles and the aches and pains that often come with a hobby involving any kind of sport, but it's not something that you need to struggle with forever. So this video is going to show you what it's all about. My name's John and I am the trainer who carries out the integrative movement therapy. Some of you may know me from personal training, you may know me from the fitness camps or from sport. I've got my own sporting record in Guernsey in football, tennis, cricket, hockey. I was one of these kids who was playing sport 2 or 3 hours a day, involved in pretty much everything that was going, and that gave me the feeling that many teenagers get when you're playing sport at quite a high level. You kind of think you're invincible, you can't get hurt, you get the odd knocks and the odd injuries, but you get over them pretty quick, as youngsters do. So I thought I was pretty invincible until I reached 17. I was about 17 and a half when I suffered a double stress fracture to my spine, and obviously that caused me many problems. When I first did it, I didn't know if I was paralysed, whether I was going to walk again properly, never mind play sport. So it was a pretty scary time. So I've been through lots and lots of different injuries in terms of ankle sprains and shoulders from tennis and everything else, but this really was the time that started sparking my interest in terms of getting stronger and never ever going through that ever again. What it meant was I spent 3 months doing very little apart from swimming, which, whilst I enjoy swimming every now and then, it wasn't what I wanted to be doing. My hobbies were football and tennis mainly, and I'd started going to the gym at this point. I was getting into lifting weights, but one thing I didn't want to do was just be swimming every single day, but it was really the only choice that I was left with. After that, it was 6 months rebuilding, although to be honest I've been kind of rebuilding ever since, but 6 months really solid, getting into what we know now as core training, trying to figure out what worked in the gym that I could do that would make me stronger and get me back to being able to play sport, which at the end of the day is what this is all about. So it was very much a slow reintegration of the person I was, the mentality I had, getting back into the things that I like to do physically. At the end of the day, there's only so much that willpower can do, and it was a very slow progress. And like I said, it was what sparked my interest in getting people back from injuries and not just slipping into that feeling of, well, this is the way it is for me now since I've had an injury. So it wasn't just a case of got back to lifting a few weights and being in the gym. I did then keep things going so that I could climb, this was Mount Kinabalu out in Borneo, got back into lifting weights, and not just what you might think of as weightlifting in terms of the gym and dumbbells and things like that. I've actually got myself back into really heavy strength training and Olympic lifting, which involves a lot of power. So there's a lot more stress on the joints and the body in general, but I've managed to build myself up from that. At the moment, I'm actually training for my first kickboxing fight, cycled across America, and I've also completed numerous endurance events such as Tough Guy here, which is about as brutal as they come in terms of terrain and battling the cold and being in weird positions that generally aren't pretty good for the body. So the reason I show you these is to show you that you can recover from injuries. You may never be 100% again, I don't think my back ever will be, but the fact is you can get back to enjoying whatever your hobbies may be. I'm sure if you're watching this you may not be looking to get into a kickboxing fight or do Olympic lifting or anything like that, but your interest might be in just enjoying your lifestyle and being pain-free, enjoying doing fitness camps, going out running, whatever it might be. So this diagram here gives you an introduction to kind of what we're looking at and how this integrative movement therapy works. It's not just about saying this muscle hurts so we look at this muscle. It's about looking at all the components of health and well-being and how they're interlinked. The fact of the matter is, if your hormones are off, if you're eating really bad food, if you've got a lot of stress, then it is going to impact on the rest of your body. It is going to cause problems with your organs. It's going to cause more inflammation, which is going to make injuries worse. And it's difficult to just say, this is what hurts, let's deal with this. And this is why we call it integrative movement therapy. It's about integrating these components as one and making sure you not only improve quickly, but you also hold that improvement as well. So is integrative movement therapy for you? Well, it is if you're fed up of chronic pain, and chronic is a term that a lot of people misunderstand. It doesn't mean it's necessarily really, really bad pain. What chronic refers to is that it's been going on for a long, long time. So you might say, oh, I've had it for a couple of years. You know, every time I go running, my back hurts. That is chronic pain, and it can be very, very annoying and depressing. If you need to train for X, Y, Z, but you can't, like I said, it might be a fight, it might be just running around with your kids. You want to train for that and be fit enough and be strong enough. It might be that you want to do a 5K, the marathon. I don't know, it's entirely up to you, but the point is, if you can't train for something because of pain, then you definitely need to think about integrative movement therapy. If you want to move and enjoy yourself without aches and pains, if you can feel a chain of problems forming, often it will start with, you might have just had a bad toe, and then because of the bad toe you start walking differently, so the ankle on the other side hurts, and then you end up with a hip problem. If you've noticed a chain of problems occurring, then IMT is definitely something you want to look at. And finally, if you want to be the very best version of yourself, and you know it's in there, you know you're capable of more, but you're restricted by your movement, you're restricted by the mindset and nutrition, everything that goes with it, but mainly the movement side of it is what we're talking about today. If you know there's a better version of yourself in there, then again, IMT is going to be a very important part of you progressing to that point. How does it work? Well, first of all, we'll get you to fill in a questionnaire, a pre-session pain history and lifestyle analysis. The reason we do this is to get a really solid idea of what your background is in terms of other injuries. You may have fallen off a horse 15 years ago, and whilst you may have got over the ankle injury you suffered when you fell off the horse, there might still be other things linked to that ankle injury. So we need to know all of the things that have led to where you are today. Your history in terms of stress, it might be history in terms of injuries, history in terms of sport. A lot of this stuff never really leaves the body, it never really leaves the mind, and this is where we go beyond just saying this muscle hurts, therefore it's a problem with that muscle. We need to look at your entire history and lifestyle in terms of current lifestyle, so current stresses. Are you sitting at a desk for 12 hours a day? Is your sleep bad? There's so many different things we need to look at, which all form part of this therapy. We'll then get you in for your session, so we'll do a posture and movement check, so static posture, and also looking at how your posture and your body alignment changes as you move. You may be totally aligned and have pretty good posture, but when it comes to moving, one knee's all over the place, one ankle's restricted, your balance is poor, so we're going to check up on that movement. We'll then look at a full body joint integrity assessment. This is where we're looking at every single joint in terms of the toes, the ankles, the knees, the hips, the lower back, up into the shoulder blades and the actual shoulder joints, your neck. All of this stuff works together, and we're going to look at each joint and how they move, see if there's any problems there, any excessive tension around the joint, and then we can start piecing this together. I look at it very much like a crime scene in terms of we'll look at all the evidence. 95% of the evidence might turn out to be irrelevant, but if we find that 5% that is causing you problems, we can then zone in straight away. It's no longer about guesswork. And then we move into the actual therapy. And what does this look like? Well, it's going to involve different things, and that really depends what we find as we do the assessments. But we're going to be looking at things like mobilizing the joints, active relief and muscle energy techniques. So it's basically an advanced form of stretching, actually utilizing your body, utilizing strength, relaxing off the muscles as you take them through movements. And it goes well beyond the typical stretching as you know it, like holding your heel up to your bum to stretch your quads for 20 seconds. That sort of stuff really doesn't make any difference in terms of your actual movement and actually making progress. There'll also be some muscle activation. Again, because of our lifestyles, mainly sitting at desks for too long, certain muscles get switched off, in particular things like your glutes, what you know as your butt cheeks. It might be things like your upper back muscles. So we're going to get a feeling for what's working and what's not, and actually turn these muscles on. You might be doing certain exercises in the gym thinking that you're working your glutes, for instance, but if the light bulb's not turning on, then the light's not going to shine. And the same thing works for your muscles. If the muscle's not activating, then performing those exercises won't actually have the effect that you're looking for. And we'll also include what we call inner range strengthening techniques, where we actually take your muscle into ranges that it's not used to working in. And often if there's a restriction there, then your body will stop you going to those ranges. So if we can take you through to that range in a safe way, and actually activate and strengthen the muscles, then when you progress onto more complex movements such as squats and lunges, you're going to get a lot more out of it. There's also a strong aftercare to this service. We'll give you a progression plan in the session. We'll give you recommendations in terms of posture, in terms of breathing, certain stretches, muscle activation, self-massage as well, using certain tools so you can actually massage and release off tight areas at home. You don't have to be paying for a massage every day. You'll get a full IMT report after the session where we'll actually break down all the things that we found, the issues that need to be dealt with, which obviously tie in with your progression plan, but you'll have that report there to remind yourself of the areas that we found needed attention, and that can be very important later on if you go to other therapists, for instance. Then it'll give them a good idea in terms of what we found as we went along through the assessments. And we'll also give you a follow-up call. One of my gripes with typical therapies and typical appointments is that you're in there, maybe half an hour if you're lucky, quick assessments, kind of hone straight in on the area that you've said is a problem, and you might feel a bit better afterwards, but there's no follow-up to it. Sometimes you can slip back, and all that happens is you just keep going for more and more and more appointments, and obviously that can become very costly in terms of time and money. So what we're looking for is to create change and keep that change as well. So we'll be following up to make sure that that has happened, and it may be a case of that you do need another couple of sessions. If beyond that we feel that there's still something more sinister in there, then of course we will refer out, perhaps for scans or perhaps for something more detailed that we can't deal with, such as chiropractic adjustments and things like that. So these kind of sessions aren't for you if you don't like taking the bull by the horns. Yes, we can make very fast changes in the sessions, but you need to be willing to actually go out and make changes to your lifestyle, to your movements, to the things you're doing in the gym, to your warm-ups, to your cool-downs, all that sort of stuff. You've got to be responsible for that afterwards. Obviously, we want to deliver results for you in the session, but if you keep doing the things that you've always done, then you're going to keep getting the same problems. If you think you can just run it off, a lot of people get injuries and think, oh, it'll go away. I don't want to pay a few pounds to make this better, I'm going to run it off, and obviously that can then cause a multitude of issues. It's not for you if you think it's just going to be a nice massage that kind of tickles your senses and makes you feel good, but it doesn't really bring about change. And again, I love a nice massage, I love having my shoulders relaxed off and just some deep breathing and chill out time, but realistically, if you've been sat on your backside for 8 hours a day for 20 years, chances are that's not going to make a difference to your movement, and we've got to look at stronger techniques. That doesn't mean it's going to be brutal, it just means that sometimes the stretching has to be stronger to really get down to the issue and get things working again. And if you prefer to just avoid discomfort and pretend it's not there rather than correcting it, then these sessions aren't for you. These sessions really are for people who want to get on, they want to do more things, they want to be able to move better, and they want to actually address the discomfort and find out what the problem is. So if any of that sounds like you, these sessions probably aren't for you, but if you do really want to make change quickly and be in charge of your own body, your own health and well-being, then IMT is definitely for you. So what can you expect? Well, we're looking very much at the kinetic chain here, looking at all the different parts. So I've mentioned some of them already, but put simply, you can see the 6 key areas working from the feet up. The ankle joints, knee joints, hip joints, lumbar spine, what you probably know is your lower back. Thoracic spine is kind of the upper back and where the shoulder blades meet the rib cage, and your cervical spine as your neck. So what we're going to be doing is creating a map of these areas and how everything links together. But we're also going to be looking at what I call the weather report. It's all very well having a map, but if the weather's terrible, if it's chucking down snow, really heavy rain, then that's going to affect the journey you make. So in terms of your body, the weather report is going to be looking at things like your hormones and your stress and your nutrition, all the things that are going to affect the kinetic chain, which you might not think about, and you might think you haven't got control over, but unlike the weather, we can actually do something about that. We're going to be looking at the missing pieces in the jigsaw. We get a lot of people who work with us who train hard, they know roughly what they're doing in the gym, they're going out running, they know what healthy eating involves, but it's these missing pieces. Why do I keep getting back pain? Why won't my shoulder get any better? And that's the kind of things we're going to be looking at. We're looking to give you fast relief. You can expect fast changes, but we want to make sure that these changes last as well. Again, I put the little star there because we can't guarantee you're going to come in for an hour and suddenly turn into the perfect human being, but the results we get usually last, I'd say 90-95% of the time. We never see someone more than 2 or 3 times And again, if we feel we can't deal with that, then we will refer you to a specialist if we feel that is the case. You're going to get a full assessment and action. We're going to give you action to take on the cause and the effect. So I'm not going to look at your shoulder and say, yes, your shoulder hurts, therefore do a bit of massage on the shoulder, put some ice on it and hope it gets better. We're going to look at the cause. Is it a problem up in your thoracic spine? You know, if that's locked up, then the shoulder joint is not going to move properly. Is it something in your lower back? So we need to address your core strength. We need to look at releasing off the hips. We need to look at activating your glute muscles. So we're going to be looking at the cause and the effect. And we're going to give you that complete action plan to take away not just cover-ups. We're not going to say, you know, rub this analgesic in, that'll take away the pain, just load you up with inflammatories and cover up the issue. We're going to really look at all the areas that need to be addressed. So hopefully you see a massive, massive reduction in pain, if not total elimination. That's obviously the main goal, but we can't always guarantee it will happen completely. So in terms of what have you spent so far, I mean, a lot of people are, you know, we're spending money on a gym membership, but you can't go half the time because you're in pain. Even if you work on £50 a month, that's £600. Personal training, you could be paying well over £3,000 a year, depending who you're working with, what their rates are. But generally for 12 months, you're going to be looking at least over £3,000 a year. And again, if you can't do the things you want to do simply because you can't move properly and your trainer's not willing or able to look at these kind of issues, then again, you're not getting value for money. Appointments in terms of doctors and massage and physio and chiropractors and osteos. I know so many people who go in this circuit of pain. Believe me, I've done it myself before. It's a circuit of therapists as well. You can spend well over £1,000 on that, on different appointments. So all this adds up, and it's not very hard over a year to spend, you know, £4,500, £5,000. We know people who've had injuries for a couple of years. You could be approaching £10,000 where you're not getting what you expect and what you're paying for out of your health and fitness. And not many people take time to break it down like that, but I hope it just shows you the impact that pain, an ache and pain, a niggle, what it can actually do to your life, and obviously the knock-on effects to your finances. So if you want to get back to whether it's running, it might be lifting weights more seriously, might be just climbing stuff and having a laugh. Believe me, when I did my back, I didn't know if I could even climb out the car, and I had to get someone to feed me in like a corpse and kind of drag me out of the hospital. Now I enjoy doing things like climbing vines out in Borneo because it's a release, it's fun, and I want to use my body however I can. Triathlons, as one of our trainers there, Russ, I've done a lot of work with him in terms of his hamstrings and his back so that he can keep pushing himself in his chosen sport. And it might be a case you just want to get involved in a regular fitness routine. A couple of our ladies here from the fitness camps, if you want to use kettlebells and weights and be able to use your body weight properly, then again, I really hope we can help you out with the IMT sessions. So just a quick recap, it is all about the health and well-being network. It's not just about my muscle hurts. We're going to look at how this all links together. So book yourself an IMT appointment today. We do only have around 5 appointments each week. They are very limited because of other commitments. So if you want to book in, get in as soon as you can. And if you're watching this on YouTube or somewhere else and you're not on our website, please visit stormforcefitness.com/IMT, and that will give you details to contact us to book, and also the fees for the session, which, like I showed you on one of those previous slides, is a hell of a lot less than what is spent on things that really aren't delivering results. So my name's John Latop from Stormforce Fitness, and I look forward to working with you through IMT and getting you involved in Stormforce Fitness as soon as we can.